Hello and welcome back to 1992. It's time for another Premier League preview show with myself, Dan Bardell, and broadcasting and journalistic legend Jonathan Wilson. Today we're going to preview Liverpool against Manchester United, Fulham against Arsenal, and Spurs against Villa, as well as going over all the other fixtures as well to predict our scores. And as always, Jonathan, before we exchange pleasantries, we will start with the Predictions League. A bang average 8 points for me last time out, and a good 11 points for you means that you now hold a 2-point lead at the top of the Predictions League. How does that feel? You're away, you're out of the country at the moment, but you've got a lead, and that's what you would have wanted.
Have I gone too early? That's the question. The history says that I put my foot down in March and speed away from you there. So, I'm slightly concerned that I've gone too early. 8 points is an average. 8 points will win. If you get 8 points every week, you will win.
You say this every week, but then you keep getting double figures. So if that keeps happening, I won't win.
Well, apart from a week when I got 2.
That was a good week. Didn't I only get 3?
Maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah, it was a poor week.
8 points is fine. 8 points is good. So, I wouldn't beat yourself up at 8. I just had a basically predicted Sunderland to lose to Manchester United, which was always going to happen.
Which I didn't do. I went the opposite way, of course. Yeah. I think I only got one score bang on as well, and that was
that's fine.
Newcastle Forest.
It's hard getting scores bang on.
Yeah.
But again, one a week is enough.
Well, the good news is I've completely forgotten to do my predictions this week, so I'm going to have to do them on the fly. So I'll have to go first every round of predictions because I've forgotten to write them down on my running order. So I will have to do that as we go through the show, Jonathan. So let's start with Liverpool against Manchester United. I was going to ask you about England, but I'm not going to ask you about England, despite the fact I've got England shirts up behind me, because it's a Premier League show. We want to focus on the Premier League. So let's get straight into the action. Liverpool against Manchester United on Sunday. Big game for both. Manchester United, notorious for not doing back-to-back wins. Obviously, they won last time out, as you mentioned. Liverpool on their worst run under Arne Slot. Which way do you see this going at the weekend? Don't give me a prediction now, but how do you see the game going at the weekend?
Well, I think Liverpool are definitely vulnerable. I think there's a lot of questions now to be answered that I don't know. There's increasingly with modern football, I just get baffled by the talk around the talk. So there's which I'm now about to add to. I'm now about to
aren't we guilty of that?
Talk about the talk. But I just find it weird that people are suddenly going, Liverpool's 3 defeats in a row. 2 of them were very late winners, and away to Galatasaray. Actually, Galatasaray's recent home form in the Champions League hasn't been very good, but Istanbul, notoriously a difficult place to go to. Hostile atmosphere and everything. And I think Galatasaray are significantly better this season than they have been for a while. So, none of those results in isolation is a particular issue, but to lose 3 in a row is a big deal. And this sort of, but they're very close to not losing them. Yeah, well, they're really close to not winning those 5 games in the first part of the season. They won with last-minute winners. So a last-minute winner either counts or it doesn't. And I think, again, you've got to put it in context that even those 3 games, if it was just those 3 games, you wouldn't worry too much. But it follows some pretty unconvincing performances before that. So look, they're not terrible, really. They're not getting hammered. But equally, they weren't particularly good when they were winning games. There's flaws there. And I think to an extent that's to be expected given the nature of the changes they've made. So I know Arsenal fans, or a tranche of Arsenal fans, it's like, how can you say Liverpool in a transitional season when they've only signed 6 senior players and we, Arsenal, have signed 7? Yes, but they're completely changing how they play.
Yeah.
Arsenal signings have been to slot into a system that already exists. You can maybe say Gyökeres coming in as a sort of more natural number 9 is a slight change, but fundamentally it's tweaks on last season. Whereas Slot appears to be trying to completely overhaul how Liverpool play. And that centres, I think, on Florian Wirtz. And Florian Wirtz's form you can interpret in 2 ways. He hasn't got a goal, he hasn't got an assist, but he has created 21 chances, equal with Jack Grealish as the best in the league so far. So again, he's not a million miles off playing really, really well. But the fact is that just watching him, he seems to be struggling a little bit to adjust to the intensity of the league, which is understandable. I think that's been less evident in oddly, as Liverpool's form generally has got worse. But I think the more fundamental issue is I'm not sure where he plays. I'm not sure what the logic of signing him was, where the intention to play him is, because he doesn't seem to fit in the 4-3-3. Maybe you play him on the left, but that doesn't see. You know, he feels like a player who needs to be more central. But if you play him centrally, he'll be playing off a number 9. And then what do you do with Salah? What do you do with Gakpo? How do you get that balance? And I think what we've seen has been the midfield too has been overrun and exposed. And one of the reasons for that as well, I think, is that Alexander-Arnold leaving means they don't have that fullback who naturally tucks into midfield and becomes a third holding player. So I think I don't think any of it's massive, but there's a number of little issues there that will need changing, and it may be that they're not up to full speed until next season, or the hammer's too late this challenge.
They've almost got like they have to sort this on the fly during games, because the proof is ultimately in the pudding. When the games are taking place, that's where they're going to find the magic formula, if one exists. You kind of touched around kind of 2 or 3 different problems there for Liverpool, and they were the 3 things that I had down for this game. The first one is I think they need to pick a centre forward to kind of go with. It feels like that will be Isak, and Ekitike will fill in elsewhere and maybe come in for the odd game and play as a number 9. But for this one, do you think the more familiarity of Ekitike in this system, because he's obviously played more for Liverpool, do you think that means that he might go for Ekitike in this game?
Possibly. I mean, I think this is one of those questions very hard to answer if you're not seeing the players in training.
Yeah.
I don't know how fit Isak is. I think
he doesn't look at his top level, does he?
Exactly, yeah. So I think once you're seeing him in training, looking fit, looking sharp, scoring goals, then then maybe he does come in. But if Ekitike is continuing to score goals and play as well as he has done so far, why would you take him out? I think people get too hung up on fees. Just because a player's cost 135 million doesn't mean you have to play him. You do what's right for the team. And Ekitike did cost 80 million. So Isak for Sweden was pretty disappointing. I mean, Sweden have had an awful local qualifying campaign, losing to Kosovo twice in the last month. So I don't think Isak's doing anything to say, I need to be picked. I'm playing brilliantly. The only reason to start him would be some sense of pressure because of the fee, and also maybe a feeling of how is he going to get sharp if he's not getting minutes. But then possibly you want to pick the games you play him in. And that's where United are an awkward team, because on the one hand, they're a big name. They obviously have a massive rivalry with Liverpool. That's not a game that you can sort of take lightly in any sense. But they're playing pretty badly. And if you look on points and on where they are on the table, you'd say, well, that is a game you can maybe just sort of drop down to 85-90%.
I think it's an ideal game. I think if Liverpool could have chose a game to have after this run and after the international break, I think they'd have chosen Manchester United at home for some of the reasons that you just suggested, in that it is a big team. The crowd will be up. They're beatable because they're not the Manchester United of old. They've got a great record against them. Manchester United haven't won at Anfield since 2016, so 9 years. I actually think this is a perfect game for Liverpool, Jonathan.
I mean, all of that's true until the moment when they don't win it. And then it's terrible. So, yeah, that can go either way. But clearly it's an easier game than playing at Old Trafford would be, or playing against one of the top 6 away. So it's if they win it 3-0 and they play brilliantly, suddenly all the doubts will be forgotten and everything will be fine. But because it is such a sort of landmark fixture, it will be remembered. So you can't take it lightly.
Yeah, we're kind of dwelling on the Liverpool setup a little bit, and probably rightly so. One of the things I've noticed, and that's been spoken about in the press, I've seen various stats websites talk about this week, the drop off in Alexis McAllister. Been a really crucial player for Liverpool since he joined from Brighton. Was a great signing for a relatively low fee for a player of his calibre. He's not started the season brilliantly, and in a time when they're almost needing their fundamental players to just do their job because they're scratching around in certain other positions to try and find the right balance. I guess that's a real disappointment, that someone that's been ultra consistent since he joined isn't really near his level. He looks quite immobile at the moment when I watch him getting around the pitch.
Well, he had that odd injury towards the end of last season, didn't he? It was never fully explained what it was, some kind of muscular problem. I don't know why it was never specified what the issue was, and then that cost him some time out in the summer, and I think he just hasn't quite got back after that. So I think it's all a hangover from whatever that injury was the tail end of last season. Maybe in an ideal world you wouldn't be playing him every week, but the way Liverpool have constructed their squad, they're a little bit short in midfield, and
Could they
so
not
he
play
has to play.
Curtis Jones?
Could do, yeah. I mean, I guess his range of passing isn't quite as good as McAllister's. So, I mean, yeah, they could play Curtis Jones. That is true. But for whatever reason, Slot doesn't seem entirely convinced by him.
No. And you mentioned right back earlier. They've kind of had three players playing in that position. Sometimes during games, there'll be three different players playing at right back as he makes subs and he changes his tactics depending on the state of the game. I don't think that's helping them either. Now, Trent was always going to be a massive loss, of course, a genuinely world-class talent that's found his way to Real Madrid. He was such a big part of Liverpool, and like you say, the way he inverted and took that space in midfield. They've got these other right backs in Frimpong and Bradley, and Szoboszlai's played some games there as well and has ended some games playing there. At the moment, who would Jonathan Wilson be playing there?
Probably Bradley.
Yep, same.
But again, I'm not convinced that Slot is convinced by him. But he's a right back. He's a proper right back. And sometimes I think you have to do the simple thing. Szoboszlai's done great playing there, but A, I just don't think it gets the best out of him. And B, it's a position he's learning, and I mean, he seems to have done it entirely willingly, but you do wonder whether, 3, 4, 5 months in, he's going to start going, hang on, I don't want to be doing this. Like, I'm my country's greatest creator. I want to be in midfield creating. I don't mind filling in at right back for a couple of weeks while Conor Bradley gets fit, but this is not me. This is not what I want to do long term. I don't know. Maybe he's sort of like, I'm delighted to play anywhere and I will do whatever the team needs. I've got no idea. But it wouldn't surprise me if even if it's sort of semi-conscious that he's a little bit reluctant to play there. Frimpong, I think, was just a slightly odd signing. Unless, and I don't think this is true, but unless the long-term goal is to go to a back three, I don't think there's any real. The only real evidence for that is they've signed Frimpong, and if you are going to play Wirtz off a number 10, then that is a way of accommodating that in the modern game. Kirkus probably could play left wing back. Maybe would be better as a wing back than a full back. But he was obviously a full back at Bournemouth and was very successful there. It's not like they've gone out and signed a whole load of centre backs to turn it into a back three. So I don't think that is what's going on. But he strikes me as being a slightly odd signing in that his progressive qualities are carrying the ball rather than passing it, which is very different to what was there before. And all his instincts are to bomb forward and go on the outside, which again is completely different to how that role was interpreted previously. You sort of think that kind of player should work well with Salah, that Salah wants to come in field. But then you need Salah to do a bit more defensive work than he does to cover for Frimpong when he goes beyond him, which he just doesn't do. And also, I think already you can see this is a team preparing itself for Salah's departure.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because you make all these signings, and I always think signings work better when they're eased in, especially if they've come from different leagues. Now, Kirkes at left back has obviously played for Bournemouth, but I think we spoke before about it. It's a different playing for Liverpool than it is for Bournemouth. But if you've got two new fullbacks in Frimpong and Kirkes, you almost needed to just go with one, I think, at the start of the season. Maybe you're going to go with Frimpong, you play Andy Robertson. If you're going to go with Kirkes, you play. I know Bradley was injured, but you've got Joe Gomez there as well, who knows the system, can kind of do multiple things from right back as well. If you need him to, it's almost like they've tried to change too much too quickly, and you could say that about other areas of the pitch as well.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think ideally you want to probably be making no more than 3, maybe 4 major changes a year. Now, look, if you have a system that works and you're adding depth to your squad, that's slightly different.
That's what Arsenal have done, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Arsenal's squad looks exceptional now. But yeah, more than 3 or 4 sort of major-ish changes is going to cause problems. And it's interesting the way Liverpool have done it, that they, famously only one signing last season in Chiesa, who played, I think, was it 108 minutes of Premier League football all season? So you barely made an impression. And I don't think this was the plan, but it's not entirely clear. Did they think that the best way to manage transition of a manager is not to have any transition at all in the squad? But then, that wins them the league, so that has worked incredibly well. But the knock-on effect is you don't have to do twice as much changing this summer. Probably, and this always feels really awkward, but it is true. They have had to make more changes than they would have wanted to because of Diego Jota, and that's always a factor, and it's never an easy factor to talk about without sounding trite. So, but that has affected them clearly in many ways, and one of the ways is that they've probably had to bring in more players than they would have done. If it was deliberate, you can sort of see the calculation of. We've seen so often that following a legend of a manager like Klopp is really difficult. And if that manager's then trying to undergo some kind of transition as well, or try to enact some kind of transition on the squad, you've got two elements of change, and that manager is operating without any credit in the bank. That if things start to go wrong, fans, the media, people generally are unlikely to have patience. Whereas going through that transition now, nobody really doubts Slot.
No.
It's like, well, Slot's won the league. So you say, okay, this season, if they finish third or fourth and there's some inconsistency, that's because of the changes he's made to the squad. It's not because of him. Whereas if he'd made 3 or 4 big changes last summer, everyone, Slot, is he really up to it? Coming from the Dutch league, is this too much of a step up? And then there's pressure on him, and maybe that then clouds his thinking. So maybe this is the clever way of doing it, but it does mean this season becomes pretty difficult.
Okay, yeah, but all fair points. I think what you've said there. We should probably talk about Manchester United, Jonathan. And it's been an international break. So normally in the international break, Sir Jim, we get some sound bites from him, and this international break has been no different. I don't know whether you can read too much between the lines of what he's actually said, or kind of believe too much of what he's actually said, because I'm sure he said nice things about Ten Hag around this time last year, and they ended up sacking him. But he did imply that Ruben Amorim needs 3 years in charge of Manchester United.
He said it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think as football fans, I think we can probably all get behind that massively. But I'm not sure every Manchester United fan would get behind that, Jonathan.
I mean, to be honest, Manchester United's the greatest story ever told. It gets you great hits, great interaction. It's a hilarious story for neutrals. As a journalist, it's great to write about them. To be honest, even I now am sort of thinking, I'm not sure I've got any more United pieces left in me. I've written too much about them. I've got nothing news happening. It's just the same thing over and over again. United have always got a thing of, if they hadn't been patient with Alex Ferguson, what would have happened? And so I think there's a sort of institutional and among fans, there's a greater tendency to patience there than anywhere else. I'm baffled by the idea that you give Amorim another 2 years without actual signs of progress. People seem to leap on the smallest thing and think it's progress. I mean, beating Sunderland 2-0 at home is a par result. At best, it's a par result for United.
Have they won 3 home games in a row? Have I imagined that? Is that something that's happened? It feels like, yeah, they have. They've won 3 home games in a row. So I guess people are maybe looking at that pattern rather than it just being Sunderland.
Well, who was it? Sunderland, Burnley, and who's the other one?
Chelsea. 10-man Chelsea.
10-man Chelsea, yeah. So they've beaten 2 promoted teams, and the team was reduced 10 men after 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they struggled to beat Burnley. They struggled to beat Chelsea in the end. They kind of found themselves under pressure in that game. I mean, not much pressure, but they did their best to mess it up. So I struggle to see the positives there. But maybe patience will work. I just don't know what it is that makes him so convinced that Amorim is the right man. I mean, if he is absolutely convinced,
I don't think he is. I think he just feels he's got to say it. I'm not sure he is convinced.
But back in '89, Bobby Charlton, Martin Edwards clearly did think Fergie is the right man, and they were clearly convinced by that.
Yeah.
And they stuck to their guns. And yeah, I guess they had the example of what he'd done with Aberdeen. They had a second place finish in the league. I'd love to know what it is about Amram that they think will eventually work. Because I mean, how can you talk about this without going over the same old ground? I think that system creates as many problems as it solves in the Premier League because you've got two midfielders, and a lot of Premier League's teams play three midfielders, and that overruns them. And yes, you can compensate for that by having players stepping out the back three, or having wing backs tucking in, or having one of the number 10s drop back.
But they don't do any of that stuff.
But A, they don't do it, and B, why would you introduce something as complicated as that? Why would you make it needlessly complicated? Unless those are the players you've got, and it's not. So when Chelsea did it and won the league under Conte, that worked because they had Kante, who is probably the best defensive midfielder we've ever seen in the Premier League, alongside either Fabregas or Matic. So Fabregas, great pass of the ball. Matic, very, very solid, very reliable holding midfielder. So that's just a level of quality above what United have. You look at who their two number 10s were. You had Eden Hazard, again, one of the best 10, best 15 creative players we've seen in the Premier League. And you had Pedro, who was great at those late darting runs in the box. You had two proper wing backs Victor Moses, who, a sort of winger, but could chug up and down the line. And you had Marcus Alonso on the other side, who's a very attacking left back. And they complemented each other. That Victor Moses was often more advanced than Alonso. You had Diego Costa, who was really good at annoying defenders, holding the ball up. But probably most importantly, they had David Luiz. So they had a centre-back who was very, very happy, A, passing the ball, and B, stepping in the midfield to become that third midfielder when they needed him to. United have none of those things.
No. They're two leaders as well next to David Luiz.
Yeah. And maybe Dorgu becomes a really good left wing back, and he's quite good. But how have they created the system as well? Where it's so often it's Dorgu who's the man who's breaking onto the through balls. That just seems why would you do that? He's not, whatever his qualities, he's not a great finisher. He's not a great one-on-one player. Why is he the player who's getting the most touches in the opposition box? It's anyway. I just don't understand it. But
I didn't put this in the running order, but I'm going to swap what I did put in to ask you about the goalkeeping situation, because we had a new goalkeeper last time out against Sunderland. Did okay, nearly made a mistake. But it is at the point now where if a goalkeeper comes out and claims a cross for Manchester United, I guess that's progress.
Yeah, again, why is a club like United fiddling around? Why have they not just got a great keeper? And okay, they ran out of patience with Onana, but Bayern they seem to be happy with it. His inability to claim crosses, it's not him, it's the defender, it's not supporting him. It means he's been put under pressure. But then they drop him for Simmons, and it's a clean sheet on his debut. Great. Maybe he turns out to be, in the same way that Peter Schmeichel, when he signed, was a slightly unknown quantity, a young player from a foreign league. But I think Schmeichel was a bigger figure than Simmons. So that's one of the many oddities. But that then comes down to their transfer signing, their transfer activity this summer generally. That why do they lump 200 million on forwards and barely improve anywhere else?
Yeah, no need for a midfield. You don't need a midfield in football. That's especially when you're only playing two of them. You definitely don't need a midfield. Let's finish Liverpool v Manchester United then with our predictions. And because of my faux pas of not actually writing any down, I'm going to go first. I was going to say Liverpool 3, Manchester United 0, Jonathan.
I'm going to say, who's your first scorer?
I'm going to go Isak. I'm going to go Isak.
I'm going 2-1 Liverpool, and I'm going for Florian Wirtz to break his duck.
Oh, we're both going for, I say obscure goal scorer. We're both going for obscure 100 million plus goal scorers in this game, Jonathan. So, okay, so I've gone 3-0 to Liverpool, Isak, and Jonathan's gone 2-1 to Liverpool, Florian Wirtz. Let's do our other prediction. Oh God, not my running order. Let's do our other predictions whilst we're in the predictions mood. Then before we preview the other two games. So Forest v Chelsea and against Maresca. Oh God, what am I going to do there? I'm going to go Forest 0, Chelsea 2, and I'm going to go João Pedro, Jonathan.
I got 2-1 Chelsea, João Pedro.
Okay, excellent stuff. Brighton, Newcastle, I am going to go 1-1, and I'm going to go Anthony Gordon. What
exactly
are you
the
doing?
same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable stuff here, doing predictions on the fly and just predicting the same as you. Fantastic.
Can you see my sheet?
Yeah, I'd have a little look over.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to read it even if you could see it. So
when you send me your predictions, I can't read them afterwards. I've gone Burnley 1, Leeds 0, and I'll go for Anthony to be the goal scorer.
I've gone 1-1 Calvert-Lewin.
Okay, excellent stuff. Crystal Palace against Bournemouth. I'm going to go for 3-2 to Crystal Palace, and I'm just going to go Semenya to score the first goal in that game. Again, what are you doing?
1-0 Palace, Mateta.
3-2 is a bit of a strange score to pick there. Looking back, City v Everton, I'm going to go 2-0 City, and then you just have to go Haaland, don't you, Jonathan?
Yeah, exactly the same, 2-0 Haaland.
I'll tell you what, unbelievable. Great minds think alike. Sunderland v Wolves, I'm going to go for Sunderland 2. I'm going to go for Wolves 1, and I'm going to go for... I'll go for Strand Larsen, Wolves to take the lead, but ultimately lose.
Well, Noah Sadiqi's out. Habib Diarra's out. I don't like the look of Sunderland's midfield now. It's lost a lot of physicality. Okay. So I also going to say that Strand Larsen will get the opening goal, but I'm going to say he's going to stay at 1-0 to Wolves.
Did you have that what you had down genuinely?
Larsen and 1-0 Wolves, yeah.
That is incredible that we're picking so many of the same things here.
It's almost like we picked the centre forward for the team we think will win.
Yeah, that does make sense. I've stopped predicting centre backs and strange goal scorers because it wasn't serving me well. West Ham v Brentford Monday Night Football. I have gone for 1-1 Jared Bowen.
Exactly the same.
Oh my word! Yeah, predictable predictions there. I would say if we're coming up with so much of the same thing, but they are our predictions for the games that we're not covering in full on 1992 this week. So let's move on to Fulham against Arsenal, Jonathan. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Fulham. I quite enjoy watching them, and they enabled Villa to get their first win of the season. So I do have a little bit of a soft spot for them. And one player I've enjoyed watching this season so far is Jonathan. It's not Jonathan King. It's Josh King. Very, very good player. Unfortunately for him, his kind of big moment in the Premier League this season was ruined because it was disallowed against Chelsea. That was his kind of making his mark moment for me, his look at me moment in the Premier League. But generally, if you watch them, he's been brilliant in that number 10 role, such an exciting prospect.
Oh, and seemingly incredibly mature for 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And maybe this is a slightly old-fashioned thing to say, but you think of a sort of 18-year-old coming through, and he's quick, and it's his pace and his liveliness that upsets teams. But with him, it seems to be his movement, his intelligence. So I think he's a remarkable prospect. Yeah, I think he just doesn't play like an 18-year-old. He plays like somebody with at least 4 or 5 years Premier League experience. Incredibly skillful. I think he's one of those players who's got a great sort of picture of the pitch in his head.
Yeah.
Seems very, very calm. The goals he's got, the one that was disallowed at Chelsea, he's taken incredibly well. He hasn't just been sort of lashing it towards the corner. He's been really sort of picking an option and executing it well. So, yeah, I think a remarkable talent.
Yeah, I watched him live at Villa Park, and his decision-making was the thing that struck me in terms of the way he dribbles. So he knows when he almost needs to run with the ball close to his foot and manipulate the ball in that way. But also he knows when to play it in front of him and almost run onto it himself as well. He caused Villa no end of problems in the first half of that game. Just every time I've watched him, I've thought, there's a future England player there for sure.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I guess his problem is that England have a lot of players in that role now, which is, I think, probably a triumph of EPPP. That was the sort of player that England for years and years did not produce, and now we've got a great glut of them, and that's great because it's something England have missed. It's something that wins you games, but it's also just something that's great to watch. It's good that our football produces that sort of player. But I think the point you make about decision making is maturity. That's the thing. It's not sort of raw talent or raw physical ability. The brain is there as well.
Yeah, I think as well, Fulham's a good place to develop. They've got a good manager, Marco Silva. We'll talk about him in a second. He's obviously going to be given a chance. He's keeping good players out the team. Fulham have got quite an interesting kind of array of attacking talent that they can use. But at the moment, King's the one that's being picked every week. And I actually think there's a lesson there for King already at the club in Ryan Sessegnon as well, someone who maybe left Fulham a little bit early, career really stagnated, and obviously he's ended up going back there, and hopefully for him, he's on the upward trajectory again. But I think that's a lesson as well. Kind of stay where you are. You're going to play every week. You're going to become better as a footballer. And eventually, if you do choose to move on, you'll have a host of options because you are that good.
Yeah, I think there's two things. So there's the fact that Fulham does not have the sort of intensity of scrutiny that a bigger team has. If you're an 18-year-old coming through at Liverpool or Arsenal or Manchester United, everybody's talking about you. Everybody, I mean, at United particularly, everybody's anointing you the Messiah if you have 3 good games and you're under 20. We've seen that with Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah, good example.
That's not always the most useful. I mean, how many Messiahs have United had in the last decade? Januzaj, Garnacho, Ahmed Diallo when he first came through. Maybe he's delivering on that now, but he had to go away to Sunderland to find himself. So necessarily, like he went on a gap year at Sunderland, which would be an odd decision. But yeah, he can develop at his own rate at Fulham without sort of having that. I mean, he's a Premier League footballer. He is scrutinised, but without having the full glare that you get at a more glamorous club. But also, he's going to get minutes because the people he's competing with are not quite as not quite as good, but not quite such big names, not quite so demanding, don't have such egos. There's not such a demand to play them. So yeah, I think young players are getting better at that. I think the number of young players you see moving abroad now is a sign of that there's an awareness, whether it's from them or their advisors, that getting football and getting it in a good environment when you're still developing is more important than getting the big contract and being at a big club.
Yeah, and he's got the right manager as well. I think Marco Silva is such a good manager. I've really, really rated what he's done at Fulham. They've never been in relegation trouble since they got promoted. I think he's done a tremendous job there and probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Unfortunately for Fulham and their fans, he's into the last year of his contract. Obviously, we've got the murmurs around. Well, they're not even murmurs, are they? At some point, I expect Postecoglou will probably get the boot from Nottingham Forest. Marco Silva has a relationship with the owner. He's worked under that owner before elsewhere in Greece. Should Fulham fans be worried? Because I think if he was to leave, that's huge for Fulham because he's made them so stable.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm sure Fulham have the capacity to attract another good manager, but whether they have the capacity to identify that manager who would fit, I'd be slightly more sceptical of that. I mean, I think he's the perfect manager for that club. Same. But equally, I think he's no great secret. He was a bit miffed by the lack of transfer activity in the summer. I think this time last, or maybe a bit earlier in this last year, he was being quite strongly into Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Well, he clearly will be in conversations with the ownership about guarantees on what spending there will be in the next year. And I think unless he gets pretty solid guarantees, I think he probably will be off. And I understand that because there is a ceiling to what you can do at Fulham, particularly if there's not going to be a huge amount of investment. And you can keep going and you can keep sort of making Fulham a comfortable mid-table side who play nice and intelligent football. But Marco Silva's ambitious and he wants more. And so it's totally understandable. He either chases the cash in Saudi Arabia or he chases glory at a bigger club in Europe, whether that's in the Premier League or somewhere else. So, I mean, I think he was definitely somebody Tottenham were considering before they turned to Thomas Frank. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Manchester United are sort of thinking, well, I mean, obviously we're talking for 2 years' time because Ruben Amorim's got to have his 3 years.
No urgency.
He must be somebody who's. I mean, if he's not in their thinking, they're even more stupid than they apparently are. So he's got a lot of credit in the bank at the moment, but equally at a club like Fulham, if you don't invest, you don't need much to go wrong for something to become a relegation fight, and his reputation could be tarnished without him having to do very much wrong.
Yeah, he's a really good manager. Works well with what he's got, maximises what he has at his disposal as well. It kind of gets the best level out of his players. And I actually think as well, he did a good job at Everton, lost his job, But when he left, they went on a downward trajectory. He was actually doing okay. I think if they had their time again, they probably wouldn't get rid of Marco Silva. So it's a great manager, and hopefully for Fulham's sake, maybe a new contract can be agreed. Let's talk about Arsenal then, Jonathan. Have they now overtaken Chelsea as title favourites in your mind?
Well, it's only 2 weeks since Chelsea got a very good result against the champions. So I'm not totally writing Chelsea off.
Still there, still in it, still in the fight.
But yeah, Arsenal really started the season really well, and there was a lot of disappointment and frustration, I think, when they dropped to 5 points. But equally, dropping points against Liverpool and City, it's not the worst thing in the world. They're both very good sides. I think, I need to relitigate it, but I think the criticism that Mikel Arteta got for his slightly cautious approach against City would have been better directed to how they played against Liverpool. I think they missed an opportunity to have a real go at Liverpool there. But it's not disastrous. They're top of the table. They have a great squad. Odegaard being out, it's obviously not ideal, but they've got more than enough cover now. The squad looks really, really strong. If you could get Gyökeres scoring regularly, that would be, that probably would be the thing that would make them overwhelming favourites. But yeah, they probably are favourites at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really, like you said earlier, their squad is just so strong. Just cover absolutely everywhere. If they lose a player, someone of equal ability or near equal ability can just come straight in and fill their boots. Now, Odegaard being out, Saka was obviously out earlier on in the season as well. When that happened last season, it was an absolute disaster. This time they kind of just got on with it and covered it, and you don't hear Arsenal fans moaning about injuries, which probably tells you everything that you need to know about their squad. Saka played in the international break for England and scored, Jonathan. Talk about whether he's world class, whether he's not. I personally think he is, but you're the one that we've got you here for the big opinions. You're the true barometer of whether Bukayo Saka is world class or not. Do you believe that he is?
I don't know what world class means. Define world class for me.
Yeah, you've stumped me there, Jonathan. One of the best in the world in their position.
Well, yes, he is clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, say you're picking World Cup squad's apparently going up to 30. So let's say
it's not, is it? That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, yeah.
Oh, 30.
Yeah, so 48 teams, 30 players.
Oh,
that's I think is that 1,440 players at the World Cup.
That's a joke.
Well, imagine the sticker book. Like, kids aren't going to be able to carry it to school. It's going to be too heavy. It's like we're going to have a generation of football-loving kids who've got bent spines from the weight of their stickers.
I didn't know that. That's incredible.
It hasn't been confirmed yet, but that's the proposal.
26 is too many.
Well, I can just about tolerate 26. But yeah, I think 30 is too many. But if you're picking your 30-man squad for Earth to play Mars, does Saka get in on the right? Yeah, I think he probably does.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a 30-man squad, by the way, I'm probably taking Josh King to get some experience. And I'm thinking about putting myself forward, because there's going to be players there that don't get a game. I'll be quite good in the dressing room. You might as well take me to the World Cup. In fairness, I'm not going to play either. Like, just put someone in there who's going to be good in the dressing room and boost morale. I sound like David Brent, but you catch my drift.
Okay, so let's say 26 is the ideal number of players. So you're saying you'd be one of the 4 best England qualified entertainers to be good around the dressing room.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
I think I'd be. I do believe I'd be good in the dressing room.
Okay, but if you're one of England's 4 foremost banter merchants, why are you doing this podcast with me?
I think I'll provide and again, I'm going to sound like David Brent here. I bring a nice balance between being able to talk about football, but also being able to keep spirits high. Like, I'm not sure how many people can. I think that's something you could bring. I think there's an argument for either of us to be in the England squad and be in the dressing room in that instance.
Well, it'd make it very hard to maintain my journalistic objectivity. If I were doing that. So,
I've got no integrity anyway, so it doesn't really affect me. It would probably be different for you.
Did we miss the trivia section earlier?
I was going to say, I had noticed that I'd missed the trivia, Jonathan. I was going to say, I don't.
You can't get away with that if you've got a dressing room of Declan Rice sitting there with his pencil out and his notepad ready to kind of answer the questions.
I don't get much wrong, but I did miss the trivia. Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, I see the trivia now.
Eager for the trivia, aren't you? Let's get away from me.
I'm eager to get you off this idea of promoting yourself as one of England's 4 foremost entertainers.
Yeah, what have I never been invited on a panel show? I just don't understand it. Right then, Jonathan, the last time Manchester United won at Anfield, as I mentioned earlier, was 2016. Do you remember the game?
No.
This isn't the quiz. They won 1-0 and Wayne Rooney scored the only goal of the game. In that game, only 2 players who started are still playing in the Premier League. I'll give you a clue. Actually, you don't need a clue. Yeah, James Milner's one.
Danny Welbeck?
Incorrect. Are you going to keep going? You've not just got that wrong because you've had 2 guesses?
Well, I don't know. It's your business, then.
Yeah, I'll give you one more guess.
One more guess. Harry Maguire was at Leicester, so it's not him. Which team was he playing for?
Oh, I don't really want to give that away. I don't want to give you that information, to be honest.
Johnny Evans is retired.
My ambition here is to stump you, to be fair. I don't think it's ungettable at all. In fact, it's not ungettable at all. But if I stump you on this, I will take that as a victory.
Joe Gomez?
Incorrect. Do you want to know who it was?
Yeah.
Are you going to kick yourself?
Am I?
Jordan Henderson.
Jordan Henderson. That would be
yeah. Jordan Henderson and James Milner both started for Liverpool in that 1-0 defeat. Victory, I'm going to have that. I think I'm going to make the trivia a bit more personal.
That's 1-1. That's a draw.
I have forgotten to do trivia probably 3 out of the 5 or 6 weeks that we've done the show.
No, but even that one, I got one answer right.
Well, I think you have to get both for it to be classed as a victory. I think getting one wrong is getting the quiz wrong, getting the trivia wrong, in my opinion. Let us know in the comments.
I just don't think Mason Mount would tolerate that in Mexico next summer.
Or me. No, yeah. Mason Mount. I've got more chance of being in the squad than Mason Mount. Actually, that's probably not true. I actually like Mason Mount. He has got a decent chance of getting back in the squad actually under Tuchel. Should we do our predictions for Fulham against Arsenal then, Jonathan? I've wrote mine down in the interlude.
Do you want me to go first? Or?
No, I'll go first to keep it fair. Fulham 1, Arsenal 2, and I have gone Larry with the goal scorer. I've gone for Saliba.
I've gone 1-0 to Arsenal. Giffers.
Okay, very nice.
Fulham last season. This game was 1-1 last season, and Fulham were very, very good at cutting out Arsenal's set plays.
Okay. I have in my head they've not been great at set plays this season, but that may be completely fabricated on my behalf.
I just remember being at that game last season and talking to Marcus Silva about it afterwards, how you try and stop a team who are good at set plays. And he seemed to think it wasn't that interesting. He was just like, well, it's just what you do. It wasn't. He didn't give a very good answer, but I do remember having a conversation with him.
I would have found that interesting. Anyway, I would have asked the same question as you. Let's talk about Spurs against Villa then, Jonathan. And let's start with Paratiki is back in at Spurs. Did he ever leave? I know he was banned officially, but did he ever really depart?
Well, he was working for them in a consultancy capacity, wasn't he?
So it's probably not that big a news, really, is it? But you know, when Houllier and Roy Evans became co-managers, you ever heard of co-sporting directors?
Well, they say that the roles are very clearly defined, but I believe that when I see it. So they say that Johan Lange, who's the Danish bloke who's been doing the job, who actually I met in the Guggenheim in Bilbao just before the Europa League final.
Did you?
He was with his family, and I was with Jack Pitbrook.
I've had a wee next to him before at Villa Park.
Ah,
there you go.
Well, why is this not? This is going to entertain the lads next summer, isn't it?
Yeah, see, it's a good story. Not many people can say that they've had a wee next to Tottenham's co-sporting director, Jonathan.
Well, he wasn't co at the time, was he? He was the main man at the time.
Well, he's the main one at Villa actually at the time as well. When I had my wee next to him as well, yeah.
So they say that Langer's going to be much more involved in the identification of talent and the scouting, and Pratici's going to be involved in actually doing the deals. Which actually seems to me, I don't know enough about their respective skill sets, but that actually doesn't seem a bad breakdown of roles. I can see that they are very different things. That being able to, run a team of scouts and identify talent is a different skill to actually being able to.
It does make sense
to get the deal done. So maybe the terminology is slightly misleading. That they're not really co-sporting directors. They have different roles. We just haven't given them different names. So if that is true, I'm assuming Johan Lange is happy with Paratici coming back, and as you say, Paratici's been hanging around for quite a while. maybe it's not that big a deal. I think what is interesting is that Paratici was so associated with Daniel Levy, and Tottenham are still stuck with him. So they obviously raise him on more than just a sort of personal relationship level.
Yeah, you got Bentancur in and Kulusevski. That was him, wasn't it? Who have been two of the more successful transfers that Spurs have had over the last 5 years or so. So he's back and he'll be working with Thomas Frank. How have you found Thomas Frank's time at Tottenham so far, Jonathan?
Started really well. It's slightly tailed off, which I think was always likely. I mean, that start they had was remarkable to push PSG so close, to beat City away. I mean, I know Spurs always beat City away, but still, that's not something you should take for granted. Then they've been a little bit more plodding recently. I think they've been lacking a bit of creativity. So I was at the game in Bardell when they drew with. Well, you're very lucky to get the draw against Glimt. I mean, they were outplayed for sort of first 3/4 of that game. The draw at Wolves, the defeat to. I mean, the defeat to Bournemouth, I guess, is slightly different in that. The way Bournemouth played in that game. Have we talked about this before? The way Bournemouth pressed in that game.
Yeah, I think we have. I think we did cover it.
So they showed that if you block in Spurs' fullbacks, they find it quite hard to play out. So I think other teams have learned from that. But I think they are lacking a little bit of cutting edge. I mean, Thomas Frank has said that they've effectively had to, partly because of injury, partly because of departures, their front four is entirely different to last season's front four. So there's an element of bedding in, which is fair enough. But it does feel with Maddison being injured, with Kulusevski being injured, they're very reliant on Xavi Simons for a bit of creativity and a bit of guile. And he's done okay so far, but I think he's still finding his feet, and maybe he will be able to provide that. But I think they have been blunted by those injuries to Maddison and Kulusevski.
Let's hope nobody's finding their feet this weekend against Aston Villa. Let's say finding our feet for later on in the season. I don't know how much of Aston Villa 2, Burnley 1 you saw, Jonathan.
I saw it all. I watched it in my hotel room in Argentina.
Fantastic.
I tell a lie. I missed about the first quarter of an hour because I was buying a bagel.
Okay, what flavour was in your bagel?
That one I think was it was a caprese, mozzarella and stuff.
Oh no, I do like a bit of mozzarella. I've got to say. So you will have seen then Villa, and I think they needed this, kind of tweaked things a little bit, and the number 10, who normally is more of a playmaker, became a support striker. Akin to Villa a few years ago with Diaby playing off Watkins, and they played Marlon off Watkins, and he scored twice. Things seemed to click for Villa again. It's the first time I've sat there this season and thought, I like that. That feels right. Did you think that was the signs of things to come for Villa?
Possibly. I mean, Marlon's a player who I've been slightly baffled that Villa haven't been able to get more out of him.
Doesn't want to play him. Just doesn't want to start him.
Last season, two league starts, was it, in the second half of last season? I think he is a really good player. I think in all the sort of mood of depression around the summer, he was sort of almost one of the casualties of that. But people forgot that he'd been signed, or seemed to sort of ignore the fact he existed. That everything was about, we haven't invested more, or look at how PSR is making life really difficult for us, even though it's a regulation we signed up to.
You and your mates on Libera, I tell you, there's an outcry from Villa fans against you and your friends. I think not you personally. More your friends.
That's Libero podcast, which I'd advise you all to listen to as well.
I would too.
And we don't always talk about PSR, though we do often talk about PSR, particularly when Tarek's on. Marlon, I think, is a good player, and it's good that they finally worked out a way of using him. My concern for Villa in that game is that having got the start, they then did let themselves come under a little bit of pressure late on. And it's only Burnley. But 4 wins in a row, 7 games unbeaten, things are looking up. Almost like people have looked at the squad and thought, actually, this is quite a good squad still. That there hasn't been that much change from last season. This is essentially the same squad that was within getting a draw at Old Trafford from being in the Champions League. So it should be a good squad. It should be top 6, top 7. You pulled a face there. Tell me why you pulled the face.
Because I'm still upset about that game.
Well, okay, yeah, fair. But I mean, that's the point. You should never have lost it. It was madness to lose it.
I agree with you. Horrible day that was.
So yeah, I think Villa will be top 8 for sure, top 6 maybe, top 5.
I
Definitely
like
still
it.
a chance.
I like it.
I think fundamentally there's a top 4.
Yep,
Chelsea obviously way out above the
of
rest.
course, naturally.
Then Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and then it seems to me it's pretty much a 3-way fight for 5th, and Villa are one of those 3 teams with Spurs and Newcastle.
I like it. I like it very much. And I wanted to ask you, Jonathan, about John McGinn. Now, I love John McGinn, and I'm always keen to see what neutral fans think of him, because I do think there's an element of the Villa fan base that take him for granted, but he plays in so many different positions for the club. Emery always finds a space for him in the 11 because he's so important. He's the captain. When he plays well, I always think Villa play well, but just wondered what your opinion was of John McGinn.
No, I think he's really good, but I think he's one of those players who somehow just isn't glamorous. And there's no danger of anybody coming in to sign him. You're not going to lose him to Real Madrid, but he gets absolutely the maximum of his ability. That sounds like I'm damning with faint praise, because his ability level is high, but he's very consistent, very versatile. Has maybe the greatest arse in the Premier League.
It's phenomenal.
Old-fashioned footballer's arse, and that's good to see. And he's clearly vital to the sort of just the institution of Villa. That he's somebody who provides continuity and leadership, and I think he's one of those players who Villa fans will always remember. And maybe you're right. Maybe fans of other clubs will slightly have to be prompted into remembering him in 15, 20 years' time.
Yeah, what a player. I bloody love John McGinn, I do, and I'm glad to hear you talking so complimentary about him. Let's do our predictions then for Spurs v Villa. Jonathan, I've gone from thinking Villa will lose every week to now, in my head, thinking Villa might win every week. So I've gone for Spurs 1, Villa 2, Morgan Rogers.
I've gone 1-1 Richarlison.
Okay, fair enough. At least it took us the whole way through the show. At least we've got something that's a little bit different in the last game, and that does us, Jonathan. Unless there's anything else you want to cover, or do you want keen to get back to your Argentinian adventure that you are on at the moment?
I'm keen to get back to finishing work I have to do before doing some interviews this afternoon. So
okay,
yes, I'm working on a documentary at the minute. So I think that'll be out before too long. Actually, I'm not quite sure what distribution is, but it's working title: The Curious Case of River Plate, looking at River Plate going from being relegated in 2011 for the first time in their history to winning the Libertadores in 2015 and then beating Boca in the final of the Libertadores in 2018, which people may remember as that game that didn't happen at El Monumental because the Boca team bus got attacked and the game ended up being played in Madrid instead.
Sounds very interesting. I look forward to watching that when it comes out, Jonathan. So thank you very much for joining me today. You had internet issues last time out, so actually we couldn't make our audio debut. I'm hoping that we'll make our audio debut this week if things have been a bit clearer in your Argentinian hotel room, which I think they have. So we may have some new listeners, Jonathan, which is nice.
Oh, that's great news. I always think I'm better in an audio format than a video one.
Yeah, but I always have it where people say to me when they see my face, some people have obviously only ever heard me speak and listened to me, and they say I never look like they expect me to, and that they expect like a 70-year-old man. I'm not really sure what that says about me,
Really?
but I've had people say that, yeah.
I thought you were 12 before I met you.
I'm good in the dressing room, Jonathan, and that is it doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you're good in the dressing room. That is the main thing. So thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll of course be back next week to preview the Premier League again and look back over our predictions. They're pretty much identical, so I can't say that there's going to be too many differences in the point scoring next week, but we will see. And yeah, Jonathan, have a great time in Argentina, and I'll see you next week.
Excellent, thank you. Have a great time in wherever it is you live.
I'm going to Sunderland tonight, so
Are you doing that for?
I'm working for Carling tonight, doing an event with Niall Quinn.
Ah, tremendous. Where are you staying then?
I'm doing it. I'm hardcore. I'm driving and then doing the event and then driving back.
Ah, okay. I was about to recommend a load of pubs and restaurants to you, but I shan't bother.
No, and it's in a social club as well. I can't remember what it's called. Something Reek Social Club. I want to say, because these Carling events are never in glamorous settings. So God knows where I'm going tonight. But Niall Quinn will be there as well, which will be nice. So if you are new to our channel, make sure you're subscribing wherever you are taking in this podcast, whether that be via YouTube or whether it be via Apple or Spotify. Please, if you could subscribe and say something nice about us, that would be really, really appreciated. We'll be back next week, as I said. So this has been 1992. it's a good buy from me and a good buy from Jonathan Wilson too.